Hey, folks, if we'll take our seats, we'll get with it. I already noticed I missed my SP by 2 minutes, so I'm sorry about that. Hey, good morning. Thanks, everybody, for spending a little time here. Talk a little town hall. Myself and Chief Moore, we probably try to get about 20, 25 minutes of download this way and then spend the rest of the time, hopefully 30 minutes. You guys got any questions that you want to send my way or something we ought to be thinking about? I did get a couple of questions over electronically that I'll try to hit if I get, make sure that I don't miss those as we go forward. Let's go to the first slide. I thought this was a cool slide, so I wanted to start with it. So, good thing we got a bunch of dandelions out here for you guys to be able to do that. But I don't know. It just struck me as kind of a good thing, and I thought it was pretty funny to start this with, and just be able to the amount of suck sometimes that we do or don't tolerate on a daily basis is concrete. So let me talk strength. I was going to talk strength real quick. Go through the lines of effort, lethality, talk a little bit of Russia, Ukraine, talk a little bit where my head's at on work schedules, ACFT, updated PT policy, go to responsiveness, talk about what we did in the legislative session, state budget recap really quick, give you sort of a peek about interim topics that we've got coming up in the upcoming session for next year, and then talk a little partnerships, Cowboy Challenge. I'll probably throw Tunisia in there, and then, like I said, give you an opportunity to have a question. If I'm saying something though that you do have a question while I'm briefing, please raise your hand and let's have this let's have the discussion, let's have the conversation. This is about communication, so if I screw up on the communication part, let me know. Let's go. Okay, strength-wise, Army National Guard's sitting about 97%, Air National Guard at 91.9%. So those of you that have been following it know that that's probably a drop on the Army side of about 3% in the last 12, 14 months. On the air side, about the same, a drop of about 3% of where that's going. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe where we're seeing that. Next slide, please. So COVID vaccinations have, had a tremendous impact on the force. Not only on those that are currently serving, but certainly there's been limited about those that want to come in. At least on the air side, we have some pretty good data. There's at least 30 individuals that decided not to become Wyoming National Guard airmen because they didn't want to take the vaccine. You couple that on the top of we got more ETSs, we got more retirements coming in, and it's certainly starting to affect us. We do have hard nose right now, 21 on the air side. I think we got about 11 of those that we're going to transfer to the individual ready and reserve because they have a remaining service obligation, and then the rest we'll discharge. We'll discharge them honorably with an RE6 code, which just means if you get your worldwide deployment issue fixed, you can come back in. So we'll see where that goes. Their air, those many of you know, their suspense to have all this done was back in December, and so they had to have their vaccinations done, and then religious accommodations started to go after that. So we're still working through religious accommodations right now. There's roughly 70 of them. I have not seen one yet. The air guard at the Readiness Center keeps changing the goalposts. The packet keeps changing on what they want in it. So it hasn't even come up to me to go further up the chain. On the Air Guard side, the Air National Guard Director, General Lowe, is the approval authority. So we'll see where that goes. We're continuing to drive on. Army, like I said, we've got roughly right now we have 90 hard nose. We'll see how that shakes out as we continue to meet with all the soldiers and talk them through the process. Religious accommodations, about roughly 70 as well. I have not seen Army religious accommodations yet either. Army just did the same thing. They started to tweak what the packets need to look like, so we had to go back and redo a few of them. So we'll see what that looks like as it goes forward. I will tell you, though, I think it's, I was talking to First Sergeant beforehand, Sergeant Vanderpool, and I think General Alkire has also shared with everybody, this has potential to be a generational recruiting problem that we have. It's not going to be just those senior leaders that are dealing with it now and those senior enlisted folks. It's the people that that are coming up. Because we could see potentially about a 10% decrease at the end of the day if things don't go right. So very focused right now on trying to retain those soldiers and airmen that we can, to try to talk them through the pros and cons of vaccinations, and then obviously try to increase our sessions. But it's a big issue right now. Not only the COVID side of it, but just the polarization of our country, and what's going on with our youth right now. It's you know, we were going great guns probably 18 months ago in the recruiting side, and that environment has changed, and a lot of reasons for that. Really, only about 2 in 10 of our high school students can even qualify to come in based on moral, physical fitness, grades, ASVAB, all that kind of stuff. So our recruiting population is going down. At the same time, our demand's going up. So we're spending a lot of time trying to think through how we continue to achieve this. But it's a wicked problem. We probably won't meet recruiting goals this year. We're about a little less than half the accessions that we need, and we'll see where that goes. But I don't think that means we give up. I mean, these things come in waves and cycles, and we've been through that before. So we've got a lot of talent, a lot of smart folks working hard on it, and I think we'll continue to do that. I would ask you, as you continue to talk to young men and women out there, please steer them our way. Any questions on strength, COVID vaccine mandates, any of that stuff? Straightforward. Okay, cool. Talk about a little Russia and Ukraine. I don't know that I've got any greater insight than what you folks do that, you know, watch the news and everything. I will tell you right now, I'm not seeing any impact to the Army and Air National Guard in terms of rotations and that sort of thing at the moment. We'll see where that goes. I got the opportunity the next 2 weeks. I'll be at the Guard Senior Leader Conference next week and on the Air Senior Leader Conference the week after that. We'll see if they start talking about some sort of rotational plan, and I could certainly see that in the future. They've put a lot of troops into to EUCOM, into the European theater, and I could certainly see at some point that they're going to have to start rotating brigade combat teams, divisions out of there. The Guard almost certainly will be part of that in some way, shape, or form. So we'll see what that looks like and see where their heads are at. So I'll probably have a little more information for you when I get back from those two things to see what they're thinking. I think, you know, one of the things that, you know, that I think about, we looked at Russia, you know, and we know that Russia's not doing as great as they probably could be doing in their invasion of Ukraine. One of the things that we found out about them is they don't fight very well at night. They don't, you know, their logistics, they're not too good in logistics, and the fact that they're conscript army and they don't really talk to their people very much really puts them at a disadvantage. I think there's some lessons learned for us on that. I think we got to continue to make sure that we are competent at night, that we continue to focus on doing our business in those conditions, because that's where we have overwhelming advantage. Our night vision capability is second to none, and that's where we're gonna fight. We're gonna win. So as commanders, you know, I've talked to Colonel Dybert about it. I've talked to General Alkire about how do we start to make sure that we don't lose that capability that we're already pretty good at, but we need to continue to be better, because that's where we can dominate going forward. Let me talk a little bit of work schedules. All kinds of stuff on work schedules going out there, you know, 410s or not. We've got a study going on at the Aviation Support Facility on 410s, just for them to kind of give us instruction on how to set up and look at whether the 410s are beneficial or not to us. The guidance I gave HRO and what I'll talk about is, you know, the number one thing we got to be able to do is support the mission and make sure that we're able to do that effectively. For us on full-time side, it's also how do we make sure that we're taking care of our traditional soldiers and our traditional airmen with that kind of schedule. What does that do for us in terms of supporting them? So they're about to finish up the aviation schedule. We'll see where that goes. But no matter, we'll use that as sort of our test bed to figure out how we look at it. But anybody that wants to do that, and I've really left it up to the two component commanders to make that decision. If you want to take a look at it, we'll set up and we'll do a study separately for each one to make sure that we do this right. Because there's some things about it that I like. You know, I think potentially in maintenance, you've heard me say this before, I believe, maintenance makes some sense to do some 410s because of set up and tear down. For those of us like me that work in cubicles all day, I don't know if it makes much sense. I know I get tired after about 6 hours. I can't imagine that we're going to improve performance if you add another 4 hours, 3 hours on top of that. So it's a little tough for me to get there. I also like the ability that, we've got to, I want to keep the organization synchronized. There was some discussion about some flex hours and what we did on flex. I will tell you that, given our size, that hasn't proven to be very effective. I remember when we did it, when I was younger in the organization, really, when you called somebody up and they weren't there, you just got a message. Somebody took a message for you. We're so thin, not somebody could actually action the work. So even though we say we're open and able to do it, most often what happened is they just took a message and they gave it to the person and they got called back. Again, not great service, and I wasn't really interested in doing that. Plus, it's very difficult to figure out who's where, when, and why across the organization. Hey, is this your day to be working? Is this your day? I really want us to be more synchronized in that. So that's my thought on it. As we continue to kind of work through that, I really sort of came up with one of the common things is, hey, I don't want to drill on a Phoenix. I don't want to drill on a Phoenix anymore. A couple of reasons. If we're off, the employees are off, many of you don't take off. You're there because soldiers and airmen are coming in and they need help and they have to get ready for drill. And that's that's an inconvenience on your time because you've earned that time. You should have it. And then secondly, I think it's just better sense for our full-time folks to be there when it happens. I know that's an impact on some of our technician force that have to take military leave now or make another sort of arrangement. I appreciate that. I think my head is still saying, hey, let's not drill on a Phoenix weekend if we can help it, and let's try to get some more time off for folks where the whole organization's off, so we can move that Phoenix weekend to butt up against a 3-day weekend, so we get a 4-day weekend and we get some more time off. That's a little bit more synchronized across the organization that way. A lot of discussion about that. There's pros and cons. It makes some people happy and some not so much. So we got 22 figured out in terms of Phoenixes, 23 is, 24. We've got the next year's figured out, and we'll see how it works. If the force just doesn't like it, hey, we'll take a look at it again. But I think there'll be some benefit in terms of time off for everybody. Any questions or input on that? It's okay to have it. I've had a lot. I thought it was great, and everybody said, nah, it's not as great as you think it is. Well, if you do have some, let's talk through it because it's important. What was the last bullet up there before we talked? Federal budget? Okay. Hey, a little bit better than we thought. Most of the impact that we saw that affects Wyoming happened on the Air Guard side. They did push 20 C-130J models into the NDAA this year. We weren't expecting that. I thought maybe we'd get 4 to 8, but we got 16 of them total coming to the Guard. Obviously, Wyoming National Guard wants to be a player in that, and so we'll continue to drive on with that piece. I think Ukraine really did sort of reset the calculus in a lot of people's minds in terms of defense budget. We got a little bit more money than we thought, and they're relooking at the national security strategy, relook at the national defense strategy now. So we'll see where that goes in terms of future years on the defense budget. But it's not quite as bleak as I was afraid. The problem we do have, though, is inflation has really cut our buying power. If you look at the MILCON projects that we have, stuff that we bid, 5 years ago, we're having a really difficult time coming under those bid marks. And so it's across, just buying food, buying fuel, buying everything that we, just us as citizens know it's difficult now. So our buying power is less, even though we've basically stayed pretty steady in terms of the money that comes to us. So that's what I got on that one. Go ahead. All right. Hey, let's talk about the PT policy. Initially, I wanted to get that out in March. I've been messing around with it on the staffing side of it, so we're going to make it effective 1 May. What it does is really extends from 3 hours a week to 5 hours a week. The intent trying to be, we're doing different ACFT on the Army side. The Air is doing different. They're doing more. They're doing different physical fitness assessments on the Air side as well. Thought maybe it was just time to take a look and maybe approach this a little bit differently. So we're going to go 5 hours. Obviously, it's very, the supervisors have the ability to manage that. I think just like all of us, our support to our soldiers and airmen are first, and we'll do PT, but that's the intent. A lot of stress going on, a lot of opportunity. I mean, a lot of opportunities that really it's good for us to get out and do a little PT, and so that's what the intent of this is. You know, Army's talked about holistic health and that sort of thing. I'm not sure that it's ever going to come to fruition in the Guard like we want it to be. And I hope I'm not offending our master fitness trainer and from that one, but it's going to be difficult to get all of the counseling, all the things that an Army post can provide into our National Guard life. It's just going to be difficult. So I think this is one thing that we can try to do is get that out and make sure that we focus on our physical fitness. Not only helps us here, but helps us here too. So that's going to come out on 1 March, and again, we'll see where that goes. If I get hue and cry from the force that, hey, this isn't working, we'll take a look at it. All right, go ahead. Okay, ACFT. You want to talk ACFT, Chief? Got it? All right. Sergeant Major, let me know. Kick me back in bounds if I get off on the ACFT. I'll let you read that really quick. I think one of the big things that comes up is, hey, what happens to those folks going to school between now and the 1st of October? And, you know, they're going to take a diagnostic is what's going to happen on those after the now 1st of April, right, Sergeant Major? That's the plan. Before April. So. Yeah, exactly. So if somebody goes to BLC, you know, next month, I think at BLC they're going to take a diagnostic ACFT, is the way I read it. So they'll have the opportunity after that to turn it into a record if they want to, but that's what they'll be doing between now and then. It'll be a diagnostic, and then starting any PME after the 1st of October, it'll be a record. And then you can see up here that they added a few other events. Took the knee tuck out, back to just doing the plank now. So I think pretty good. Went to gender scoring. I think everybody's kind of been paying attention to that. Any questions on ACFT? Bug anybody? All right. Hey, I wanted to wish us all a happy birthday. Wyoming National Guard's 152nd birthday this week. Governor John Allen Campbell issued the general order, actually before we were even a state, to form a militia, and that's what we did. And this year, 152 years later, we're still going on. The first federal mission came with the Spanish-American War, followed by deployment to Mexico after Pancho Villa's raid into Columbus, and then World War I, first deployment of the National Guard in Wyoming as we know it. So anyway, happy birthday to all of us, and I think it's important for us to know 152 years of legacy that we have with us. So just want to make sure we're tracking that. Go ahead. Legislative session. Really had 6 bills that we wanted to get to that came out of it. The first one, the priority that we had as the highest one, was dependent child care. So starting July drill is what we're looking at. If you have to pay for child care or dependent care, if you have a parent or guardian that's in DEERS that you have to take care of, we're going to reimburse some level of child care or dependent care for that IDT weekend. We're writing the rules right now to try to figure out how to do that and what we reimburse at, but it's going to be very little restrictions in the sense if that's your sister that you want to reimburse, if that's your brother, if it's your friend down the street, that sort of thing, to make it as easy as we can on our soldiers and airmen to get reimbursed for child care, to try to ease some of the financial burden of what it takes to serve on the weekend. This is funded out of the grant that, that the legislature gave us about, 15 years ago, Doug? About 15 years ago. It was a $5 million corpus, and then we've been living off the interest from that. We got about $2 million in interest accumulated. We're going to segregate $1 million off to the side for deployments to continue to fund those, and then we're going to start reimbursing out of this other $1 million. Hopefully, we'll try to keep it around whatever interest we earn is where we like to keep it. But we'll see what the demand is, and we'll see where that goes. The intent, of course, ultimately is to keep our soldiers and airmen in so that it's not such a burden to going forward. So that was a big one for us, and I think hopefully we'll get use out there in the field. So if you have, please let your soldiers and airmen know that that's available for drill weekends. We'll take a look at it. If we got enough money, we'll try to expand it to annual training and other events like that. But initially, we just kept it at IDT because we thought that's what we could afford. We'll see what happens in terms of usage. It's not, is it? Yeah, in the rules. Yeah. So what they said was, hey, are we going to limit it in lower ranks? So that's a good point. The statute doesn't do that. We just got to. We may have to do that in the rules depending on how much money it is, and so obviously, the younger soldiers and airmen will have preference there. But we'll just see what the demand is. The intent is anybody if we can afford it, but we'll see what it brings. Thanks for that, Doug. I'd forgotten that. Number two, all of you saw quite a bit of stuff about sexual assault reporting and that sort of thing. You know, we did a voluntary report this last year to the governor. Committee thought that was good, so we recommended to make this a requirement in law. So that passed. So every year we'll have to report equal opportunity and sexual assault to the governor and the committee. We also had a bill that established an Article 138 process, which will be coming out to commanders and enlisted leaders. What that is, it just allows any soldier or airman to take up a grievance if they don't think that their chain of command has addressed it. They have the opportunity to go up the chain. Is that good enough, Chris? Ultimately goes to me, and then above me to the governor if it's taken. So when we did the revamp of the code 2 years ago, we just had the punitive articles in there. So Article 138 was left out. We just adopted everything else. So this one was a gap that was identified, so we just added it back. Along with that, though, we got a agreement with Workforce Services to do some equal opportunity counseling and investigations for us. It takes us a long time, particularly in COVID, to go out and find an investigator or a counselor that's got some experience to do this. So now we have a partnership with Workforce Services, or we will here by July, to help us with that. So that's goodness. And then the last one is criminal records, sharing criminal records investigations. Primarily, it really was after, for those folks that are flagged on the Army side. Sometimes it takes a long time for cases to get adjudicated, and we were concerned that they're not, obviously you're flagged, you can't go to school, can't get promoted, can't do any of those things. So it was really affecting soldiers' careers and lives while we're waiting for this case to be adjudicated. So we got the ability to get added to the list of how many? 38? 38 other folks that can have criminal records reviews, and now we are as well to be able to make some sort of decision to allow either to raise the flag or not. The second thing, too, is potentially if we have a sexual assault case or something like this, oftentimes local law enforcement prosecutors may not take that as to prosecute it. And we've had a couple of cases where we thought, hey, there's certainly enough evidence there that we as a military department could take some action, but we weren't allowed to have the investigation in all cases. Mr. Smith's pretty persuasive. He usually got it. He usually got that for us, but now it's part of the law. So if this is all about completed investigations that are completely done and help us get after some potentially bad behavior if to address that if we need to. So those are the things we did this year to get her going. The last thing was the buffer zone around the Oregon State Veterans Cemetery. Those of you that have been up to Evansville near Casper know we have a great cemetery up there. Darren and his team of one do a great job of keeping that place beautiful, and we just wanted to make sure that will always be that way. So the committee took up some legislation that said, hey, the only thing that's going to happen on that acreage around it is grazing, and so that passed as well. So we're pretty happy with the buffer zone around the cemetery up there. Okay, state budget recap. Employee pay raises. Let me talk a little bit about employee pay raises on the state side right now. I'm going to phone a friend. Matt's going to come up and talk if I get this screwed up. But oh, he's already ready. He says, "I know I'm going to screw it." Come on up, Matt. I've seen you try to explain this. I need.
All right, so for state employee pay raises, this is good news. We are eligible, state employees are going to get a pay raise in July of this year, which is awesome, way overdue, and it will help out curb that inflation stuff that we're all dealing with. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk about with that. To be eligible for this pay raise for state employees, you have to be employed with the executive branch as of April 1st of this year, not have experienced a break in service from April 1st through July 1st of this year, and also not have received an overall unsatisfactory rating on the 2020-2021 performance evaluation rating. So that's the last PMI, not the current PMI. So that's what makes you eligible for this pay, this compensation adjustment is what they're calling it. And there's two different steps to this thing. So the first step that was approved is to adjust the pay tables for all the state positions in the executive branch. And what that does is it helps catch us up with the market rates a little bit more. And so if you're an employee and you fall below the new minimum of your class code on the new pay table, you'll be at least brought up to the new minimum. That's the first step. The second step is they are doing a market merit matrix pay adjustment for all those who are eligible. And what that means is it's kind of an XY axis matrix. And on the y-axis, of course, is your performance evaluation. So the higher your performance, the higher the pay raise. And on the x-axis, you've got, thank you, sir. On the x-axis, you've got where you fall in relation to the new minimum, or I'm sorry, the new midpoint of your pay grade. And so the closer you are to the minimum, the higher the percentage you're going to get off of that. Those numbers are yet to be determined because the state legislature approved more than what we asked for, which is a great thing. And so ANI HRD is going back to crunch the numbers to give the maximum benefit to state employees. And so we will be getting those letters out to all state employees probably the end of June. The pay adjustments will go into effect July 1st, and we'll see the money at the end of July. So, and if, the other thing is if you fall above the maximum of your pay grade, you'll get just a one-time bonus. How that works. And AWACS and TPO1s, temporary employees, are not eligible for that, unfortunately. Any questions? I know it's a lot of information. State employees have any questions? Go ahead. Major Lindmeyer? Okay.
It's because I did such a good job with the X.
Thanks, sir.
The only reason I know that is he drew that out for me just like an hour ago, so I knew what X and Y axis was. All right. Hey, good stuff for the, I know the governor was very interested in doing that, so it's well earned by our state employees, so, and we'll continue to keep working that. Just a sneak peek of what we're looking at for 2023. State incentives, recruiting, retention, referral bonus, that gives some of us a little bit of a headache, but you would know that as GRAP from a previous day. But it's, I'm getting there. But this will be strictly a state-funded event, and we're going to work through right now to figure out what kind of controls we put in place to keep the debacle that was GRAP from occurring in our own. But we're serious enough about getting after the recruiting retention problem. I think we ought to take a look at it. I wasn't really interested in it probably a couple of years ago when we talked about it. Environment's changing. I think we got to change with it. So Alabama and Vermont have already implemented it, so we've got a program to sort of model after on that one, and so we'll take a look. We'll see if we'll see what the legislature thinks about it, but I think it's important enough for us to get after it. There's some state active duty reform that we've got to look, mostly some statutory cleanup and some specifications. Our doctors and lawyers are pretty well taken care of. Not so sure about our nurse practitioners when we do state active duty, what that, if their protections are as clean as we'd like them to be. Also, Texas has done a pretty interesting thing when folks go on state active duty. They have to, they go away from their employers, and so they still accrue an insurance debt. And so we're going to look at trying to, when we go on state active duty, to reimburse insurances for the folks to do that. So we'll take a look at that one. And then lastly, we got to do some statutory cleanup, some stuff that we've got to work. The biggest one that jumped out was we got to add Space Force to, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, all that good stuff. We've got to add Space Force into the statute because now they are part of it. And so I think they're going to get a license plate. I think they're going to get a couple other things. So we'll see where that goes. But we'll get after that one. Okay, next one. Cowboy Challenge. I think the big thing, the big foot stomp that I got here is, hey, this is part of us, part of the military department. They are our Youth Challenge program. For those of you that may not know, and I don't suspect there's very many, if any. That's our at-risk youth program that we have up in Guernsey. 16 to 18-year-olds, 15 to 8-year-olds, at-risk youth. Really, we were trying to get after improving our high school graduation rates across the state of Wyoming. And this program allows you to either do GED, or HiSET is the new name for that, or do credit recovery so that you could go back and graduate from your own high school. But we've got a team up there that do a great job, and this program, changes lives. We really are affecting the youth of Wyoming and making it better citizens, I think. So they are part of our family. They're housed there, right there on Guernsey, and they do a great job for getting it out there. One of the things that they always ask us is if they need mentors for their young students and their cadets. It's based, if you're interested at all, if that's something that's a passion of yours to work with youth, please give Colonel Schenefeld, General Pritchett, or myself just a heads up that you might be interested in being a mentor. It's about a year process that you do mentoring afterwards. Longer if you want to do that, but it's incredibly important to the success of these young men and women that they have some stable adults to look up to and help. So if you have any sort of passion like that, please reach out, because we could use all the mentors that we could possibly get for that one. All right, let's go. All right, let me turn over to Chief real quick if he's got anything, and then we'll turn to you guys for questions if you got anything for us.
Just real quick, while we were talking about Cowboy Challenge, went up a couple of weeks ago with Sergeant Major Schmidt, Chief Larson, Chief Rhodes, took a good look at that program. I got reinvigorated with it. I know sometimes we don't always look at that program right because it's not in our core, what we need to do as military members. I will tell you, it's a great program, especially to give back to our state and our communities. So if you are interested in being a mentor, or if you're just interested in learning more about the program, get with myself or senior enlisted leaders that went up there to look at that program. And if you're really interested, go take a look at it, tour it, talk to the cadets up there. It is something that, again, we don't normally think about what we should be doing as military members, but I tell you, it does change lives. It does affect our whole state and build our communities better. And a little thing with the mentors, especially for my Army Guard folks that live across the state, they like mentors in their communities. So it's not always just down here in Cheyenne. They like them in other places. So think about and consider that as well. And real quick, and I just want to talk about, we talked about Russia and Ukraine there a little bit, and everybody's seeing on the news, and this is my own analysis, Josh Moore. I didn't pull this out of anywhere, but my thought process and kind of the things I've been told. Everybody knows there's a little surprise at how poorly Russia's performed in that battle. Some people say, hey, we saw it coming. Some people didn't. But I will tell you, based on a lot of the things I've been briefed and talked to, the reason they performed so poorly is because their NCOs suck. And I will tell you, that's a lesson for us. We need to know that for the NCOs in the room and the NCOs listening, we can't suck. We got to know our job. We got to know what we're supposed to do as NCOs. We are the backbone of the military, and we got to make sure that we understand intent-based leadership, that we understand mission accomplishment, that we understand that we got to take care of our soldiers and airmen to give them what they need. We cannot allow the tyranny of mediocrity to get us. That's the secret sauce of the United States military and why we're the greatest fighting organization ever in the history of the world, is the NCO. I truly believe that. and I would argue with anybody that wanted to argue against me quickly, and I think most NCOs in the room would agree with that. And I would love to sit and tell you why Russia sucks, because their NCOs suck. So that's really my soapbox moment I wanted to take here and just remind everybody, especially our NCOs, our responsibility. So thank you.
Hey, let me just finish it up with what I think maybe the next 12 months, it looks like and where we're going. I think we're going to have to be pretty internally focused in the Wyoming National Guard and the military department. Got a lot of stuff going on. We're gonna change some units out. We're gonna bring another unit in. We've got a troop command converting to an 06. We've got a lot of internal stuff going on that I think we're gonna have to be focused on, because all that stuff causes friction. All that stuff causes people to question, and I think we're gonna have to be very deliberate in how we communicate and how we talk about it and how we get through this. It's not something we haven't done before, but sometimes we don't do it as good as we could, and mostly it comes on the communication side. So we'll continue to be focused on that as we come forward, as we get going. I think budgets are going to kind of stay the same. I don't have a good feeling. In terms of next fall, we'll probably have a CR again for some period of time, but we'll just see how that shakes out as we go forward. I think everybody knows Governor Gordon declared he's going to run again on Monday up in Buffalo, so he's going to go do that. We'll just stand back and watch and see what that brings, and see where that goes. And then I think 2 years from now will be interim elections, and we'll see where that goes on. Actually, this fall. Yeah, it's this fall. So that'll be interesting to see where that one goes. Hopefully that'll give us some cleaner ideas on budget and that sort of thing. So that's where my head was at on if I was going to say that. Like I said, we're going to be very focused on achieving some in-strength, and I think we're also going to be focused on building some cohesive teams and how we get after that, and more to follow on that as we develop that process going out. I had 2 questions on electrons there. Before I get there, Chief, is there anything you wanted to push to the folks? I'll give you another shot later if you think of something. I had a question on about the Guernsey land swap. So those of you that are tracking up there, we are trying to swap some land with some trust fund land from the state for the military department. Our intent, if you remember the North Training Range, there's a checkerboard of state trust lands up there. We either have to have a permanent instrument in order to train on it. We've been doing grazing leases for a long time, and then about 3 years ago, we went to a temporary use permit, and then now we're trying to actually swap the land, and we're going to push all that land to the southern part of the training area, in the south training area, closer to Gray Rocks, and so that all that maneuver space in the north is under Wyoming Military Department control, except for a few BLM functions. But so we're going through that. We're still driving on. It's been taking much longer than I thought it was going to take. We're working on this 3 years now, and I'll tell you, the legislative session put some bog into it, plus some other things. We had a little thing with the VMF up in Sheridan that we're working through right now that's got some bandwidth and some other things. But we're going to get back onto it. I talked to the director probably a month ago of OSLI, Office of State Lands and Investments. She's interested in continuing to drive on and get that swap. So if anybody's heard that it's not happening, that's not true. We're still driving on, and our intent is to get it taken care of. The other question I had was, hey, listen, given the cost of, even though we've come out of COVID now and we're back to quote unquote normal, what's the thought about teleworking given the amount of the price of gas and food and all that stuff going up? I tell you, I hadn't had much thought, put much thought into that until that question came up. I certainly haven't talked to any of the senior leaders about it. I will tell you this, though. I think I'm open to some consideration along those lines, and at the risk of getting in front of Colonel Dybert and Chief Lewis, I think if that's become an issue for you, let's make the request up to do that, and we'll take a look at it based on mission and individual circumstance. My sense is maybe not all the time, maybe a couple of days a week to help ease the burden a little bit, but I just think of all the details. and equities that we have to go through here. What's the threshold? How do you do that? So I think want to take care of our folks and want to make sure that we do it correctly. But I think there's some other considerations there too. So I will tell you, if you run into that, let's run it up the chain and let's give it a shot that way, if that makes sense. So that was the 2 questions I had. What about from all you folks here? Anybody got anything for me or us? It was such a great briefing. There was no question left unanswered. Jamie, you got one? Not today. I'm going to call people out. Kevin, you usually have one for me. All right. Who will first run? You got anything? I'm looking for some committee folks. Ooh. Bill. Yeah, we do have some stats on that, and Colonel Schoenfeld, you may kick me back in bounds, but it's been about 11% nationwide is go join the military. We're a little bit higher than that. The problem that we've got, because we actually kind of encourage them to do the active component route too, because the problem is when they go back to the situation they came from, oftentimes that's not a great solution. So it just depends on a case-by-case basis. I think we've had, both sets of recruiters up there to try to offer them other opportunities to do that. So I think we get a fair amount. Holly, do you know off the top of what our percentage is? Yeah. And like I said, I think we kind of encourage them to get someplace away from where they come from. That's usually the big bulk of their problem, is the environment they had or didn't have at home. And if they join the Guard, we kind of want to get them away from where it is they came from. So. Yeah, that's the PAO team back there. And hey, Alyssa, are you here? She's back there. You got to come out and sing the praises of your folks. Hey, Alyssa, come on down. Just let the folks know what PAO did in terms of national awards.
Oh, yeah. So our fabulous PAO team just was announced as national winners. We took home, Jacqueline Marshall took 4 categories. Yeah. She took 4 first-place categories at the national level. We had a Photographer of the Year, John Alderman, at the wing. We had New Photographer of the Year, Kylie Warren. Sorry, this was unexpected, so a little shaky. Kylie Warren was New Photographer of the Year, and then 3rd place, Uptain. Sergeant Uptain from the Army was 3rd place. So we're now moving on to the DoD level, and they'll be competing against the rest of the services.
Thanks, Alyssa. Sorry to put you on the spot, so great job. Yeah, if Sergeant Marshall can win videography with anything with my face in it, you've really accepted, you've excelled beyond. Thanks, Bill. That's good stuff. Anybody else got any other questions? Anything to add? Captain Weiser, you usually have something for me. Give it to me. Nothing? No, sir. Nothing? Huh. Sir. Hey, First Sergeant. Yeah. Hey, what the question was, and for those on Facebook, is, hey, has anybody thought about trying to reimburse our soldiers and airmen for IDT travel? And the answer is yes, we have. As we go out and talk about to the soldiers out there, particularly with the price of gas doing what it is right now, that's the number one thing that comes out across here. Reserves have the ability to do it. We are authorized to do it, but as Chief's been working the numbers, it is incredibly expensive to do. But that's not going to deter us right now, so we're continuing to work through that to see how we can at least get after some of that, First Sergeant, because I hear you, that's the deal. And so one of I think right now we're in pretty good, we're probably in pretty good shape. Although, what did our bill go up for hotel lodging, just not going to Guernsey, like $600K this year on top of what we've done in the past. And then IDT, what's the number that we were talking about so far?
Mileage by itself, 4 drills per year for E4 and below for the Army Guard would cost almost $600,000 by itself.
So we got that, and so we're at least looking at that. That's probably doing, we could do that. The issue is, once we start doing that, we got to continue to do it with we got to make that commitment. It's not something, once we start it, we can, I think, pull back away from it. So it's on my radar screen. We're going to continue to work for Sergeant, because I hear you. I would love to be able just to be able to fund that and
For us, just for HHB 115, for lodging, if we stayed in the armory, we would save $10,000.
Yeah.
The amount that we spend in lodging, we could use that money elsewhere. Because just talking to some soldiers and stuff, sir, I mean, and honestly, and I know other states do it, is if I was to give them mileage to come to drill, they would prefer to stay in the armory than getting a hotel.
Okay. Yeah.
Just something from talking to some
Yeah.
soldiers.
I appreciate it. But we'll continue to get after that one, because I hear you. What else? Anybody else? How about in the back corner? Sergeant Marley, you got anything for us? All right. Well, I'm not going to drag it out if you guys are good. All right, folks. Hey, thanks very much. If you do have any other questions, I'll be down here, and so will Chief, if you want to talk one-on-one on some issues. Again, thanks, everybody, for what you do, and have a good spring. Hopefully we can get out of this wind. I'm really over this right now. It's enough of this now, so we'll do that. All right, folks, take care. Right for the Brandon Hool.